So today we have our hands on two mountain bikes from two very different brands. Giant is most definitely the Goliath and the Rocky Mountain Soul very much the underdog. Before we talk about the Soul though, let's take a closer look at Giant's new Talon 3. Giant is the biggest brand in the world, so they need no introduction. The Talon 3 is part of Giant's recreational mountain bike range. Anyone who's looking at riding bike paths, rail trails and beginner level single track should be considering the Talon 3. The Talon 3 features hydraulic disc brakes. You need these. These will help you stop way better than mechanical disc brakes and need a lot less maintenance. Tektro is a brand of choice here. They operate on mineral oil and are super easy to service. The Tektros also have a light lever feel and the lever can be adjusted for smaller hands. For the type of riding the Talon is designed for, they're more than adequate. It's got 24 gears in the mid-level Shimano drive system, 3 chainrings on the front and 8 gears to choose from on the cassette. Gear changes are relatively smooth on flat surfaces, but if you need to change gears quickly, they soon become a bit clunky. The front and rear derailleurs also struggle on successive and rapid gradient changes, so you really need to think ahead and read the terrain when shifting gears, otherwise you'll be left in the wrong gear. It's got front suspension that can be locked out when not required, such as riding on smooth bike paths. This will make the bike more efficient to pedal. Remember to turn it back on though, otherwise the ride becomes teeth shattering. Suntour is one of the biggest suspension manufacturers in the world. The XCT suspension fork is great for smooth off-road trails and unsealed bike paths. However, we found the shortcoming of the fork quickly as soon as we dived into more technical single track that consisted of tree roots, rocks, logs and jumps. Colour shouldn't be important, but it is, and it's the matte black and fluoro red that our customers love the look of more often than not. Maxxis is the biggest tyre brand in the world and the Icons are a sensible choice for the Talon. Perfect on trails where it's hardpack and loose over hardpack, they are fast rolling and deliver great grip in these conditions. They are not suitable for muddy or severely wet conditions though, so look for other options if you're going to be riding in winter. Specs covered, we're led to the question of how does the Talon actually ride? It's a great mid-level mountain bike option if you're going to be spending more time on bike paths than you are riding mountain bike trails. Fire roads are no problem. Family bike rides along the Warburton Rail Trail, albeit slowly, piece of cake. Suburbia and riding to and from school, perfect. In all, the Talon 3 is fine if you're riding smooth, graded or unsealed surfaces. But what if you're not? What happens if you decide to have some real fun and take it mountain biking? So as a mountain bike, the Talon performs fine. If you're riding on amateur mountain biking trails where the most you'll encounter is small rocks, small tree roots, relatively undulating terrain, nothing too steep in terms of climbing and descending, the Talon 3 performs perfectly. However, most mountain bikers progress really quickly. So what I mean by that is your first and second ride, you'll be fighting the bike a lot, you'll probably not even want to go out again because it's too hard. But those that persist, those that want to become better riders, you'll find you reach the limits of the Talon 3 really quickly. So the gears, for example, you want to change gears and the gears will end up being a bit more clunky. You won't be able to find the right gear. The suspension, for example, you want to go faster over tree roots and rocks and bumps. The suspension simply won't handle that level of abuse. The brakes, again, you want to ride the trails that you ride quicker, and the brakes will either just not stop you in time or they just won't be adequate for the level that you're at. So a bike like the Talon 3 isn't designed for progressive riders. So by progressive riders, I mean someone who wants to be better, become better, more confident, more skilled on the bike. Now the Soul is a far more capable bike. It's got way better brakes, suspension and gears. Those 3 areas, or one of those 3 areas, are generally the areas that let the bike down. But on the Soul, they're a lot better than what they are on the Talon, which means you'll reach the limits of the bike far, far later in time. You'll eventually get there, but not as quickly as what you would on the Talon 3. So short of buying a $2,000-$3,000 dual suspension mountain bike, if you do want to start on something that's a lot more capable, something that you're not going to reach the limits on quickly, the Soul will do that. So now we take a look at the Soul and show you exactly why you should consider it if you want to get into the mountain biking side of things. This is the new Rocky Mountain Soul 20, and it has us super excited. The Soul 20 is all about stability. This is where I become a bike nerd, so stay with me. What makes it so stable and confidence inspiring? The frame's 67-degree head tube angle, which is the angle you see here. The slacker head tube angle creates more front tire contact with the trail. More contact equals more grip equals more control. This means that if you're just getting into mountain biking and you make a mistake, you'll be far less likely to crash, because as soon as your front tire hits something, it's less likely to be deflected. The Talon 3, by the way, has a 68-degree head tube angle, and yes, even though it's only 1 degree, it does make a big difference to the bike's handling. The 120mm travel Suntour XCR fork does its job brilliantly, absorbing impacts without being deflected offline, and delivering a far smoother feel over the rough stuff compared to the Talon 3's 100mm XCT fork. More suspension travel on the Soul means you can make a mistake and still recover from it. Not so easy to get away from a mistake on the Talon 3 though. You have to be a lot more precise in your line choice through obstacles. When the speed increases and the trail gets rougher, the Soul stays composed and in control. This is because the mid-range XCR delivers smoother suspension performance via a better damper cartridge and larger, stiffer 32mm upper tubes. A stiffer fork is always a good thing because it results in less flex, translating into a more predictable front end and better handling. You know exactly what the front end is about to do as it connects with tree roots, bumps, corners, and every other fun thing on mountain bike trails. Instead of 8 gears, the Soul has 9. More gears equals smoother gear changes. A wider selection of gears on the back delivers an easier gear for climbing steeper gradients. It's also an advantage if you're not very fit. During our tests, we loved how smooth the gear shift was on the Soul. It was a bit of a surprise, considering the Soul's price point. That said, we had no problems with the Talon 3 either, but we did prefer the Soul's simpler, more efficient drivetrain. Steering is controlled via a modern short stem and wide handlebar combination. This is a design trend that we see all the time now on performance mountain bikes, but it's recreational mountain bikes that would benefit more from it. Both the Soul and Talon take advantage of this. The point? Your weight is further back on the bike, so you're less likely to crash landing jumps. You have more controlled descending and cornering and railing corners and quickly changing directions. When you need to stop, the Shimano hydraulic disc brakes on the Soul deliver tons of power and modulation. During testing, they felt really good. Typical of Shimano brakes, lever movement is light, and on our cross-country mountain bike trails, we never felt as though we needed more power. The Talon 3's Tektro hydraulic brakes felt slightly heavier at the lever and a touch less stopping power. We'd still be happy with them though, as long as we didn't have to encounter too many steep descents. All in all, if you're the sensible, less rowdy type, then you should probably get the Talon 3. But for both teenagers and adults who will act like teenagers when on a mountain bike, the Soul 20 is the go-to bike. It will keep both types of riders less likely from getting hurt and will also help improve their mountain biking skills because of its stable geometry and handling and quality hardware. As mountain bikers, it would be our choice between the two bikes. Sorry, Giant.